I'm not a big fan of doing interviews, or especially like what we're doing now.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty crazy. I actually got to talk to Ania Ahlborn right on this channel, and the video evidence is going to follow right when I'm done with this introduction. Previously, I interviewed her on paper for If You See Her, but this time around, she agreed to sit down and talk to me because she's like, well, nobody ever watches your channel, so it's not really like appearing on YouTube, you know? So it was very low stakes. And but she graciously sat down, talked to me. I was blown away by her story of how she came to be a published author. Her first hardcover was a Suntup. This Suntup is Suntup's first edition, and the whole story is just really cool. You like to see it work out the way it has for Ania Ahlborn. There are other authors who are going to watch this video and say, God damn it, that's where all the good luck went. It's pretty crazy, but just to chalk it up to luck is to miss the real work, effort, blood, sweat, tears that Ania puts into her stories and her whole publishing career. It definitely takes a lot more than just luck. So check out this interview. Check out the Suntup edition of Good and Joyful Things. It's pretty wild. The first time anybody's going to read it, they're going to read it as a Suntup book, which is the best reading experience you could have. And I'm excited to get this one as well. Big Ania Ahlborn fan, thanks to Suntup, so I like to see it come full circle. Anyway, check out the interview. It's loaded with good and joyful and dark things.
For once, I'm not talking to myself. It's time to go beyond the book and get over your shelf.
Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about anything and everything about how you write, what makes you write, who inspires you, how it's been working with Suntup. But first, I just want to welcome you to the channel, to the show.
Thank you.
Try to be a professional host. So let's start with what I'm always fascinated with. The people who are writing the stories I love to read and doing the things I wish I could do and doing it so well. Why are you doing these things? What inspired you to be a writer, and especially a writer of such incredible dark fiction?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. I get asked that a lot when people find out that I'm a writer. Most people that I know, they don't find out that I'm a writer until like, they decide that we're going to share a Facebook page or something, and then they're like, I had no idea. So I've always been like the kid who liked the weird stuff. I didn't grow up, but I had a few years where I lived in an A-frame house with my parents, and it was directly like adjacent to a cemetery. I was maybe 6, and I started sneaking through like a chain link fence. Like I found a hole in the chain link fence, and I started sneaking through there, and that was like me wandering the cemetery, was like the way other kids wander playgrounds, and I thought that was just like totally normal. Like at 10 years old, I think it was around 10 years old, I took my birthday money to a Toys R Us and I bought a Ouija board. I had no idea what it was. And that was just like the thing that I wanted. And I remember the cashier kind of gave me this look. I don't know why I even remember this, but the cashier gave me this look like, do you know what you're purchasing? Because it was just me. I was just this kid with my allowance money. And I was like, yeah, just give me the stuff. Like, yeah. And, but, just weird stuff like that. That's always been who I am. And I don't know why that is. It's just something that I'm connected to, that I respond to, that it's just ingrained in me for some reason. And what's funny is my kiddo, he is now 5. And this is kind of a recent development. It's been like a year ongoing, but he's starting to show me a little bit about what he's about. And he is definitely my kid.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
one of his favorite things now is to like creep me out with, he knows I hate cockroaches. And I told him I wrote a book, Palmetto, about
Yeah.
cockroaches. And so now his favorite thing to do is just talk about cockroaches and how like they're gonna attack me. And he's really good at it. So I don't know, maybe there's another Ahlborn on the horizon, who knows?
So your family wasn't like, because I know in my family, I grew up with ghost stories. There's a story in my family where I saw the ghost of my cousin, and I was talking to him when I was like 6 years old, and then I identified him in a photo. Like, no, that's the boy I was
No,
talking to. There's nothing like that in your family.
nobody is into horror. Nobody is, nope, nope. The closest thing, and this is nothing like that, is, you know, me and my cousin, we would watch basic cable during summers that I would spend with her. And they would, back in the 80s, they would play these movies, you know, Troll, Dolls, Cat's Eye, you know, those movies. And they absolutely terrified me, but I loved them. And so that was kind of, I guess, our version of ghost stories, is that we would watch this stuff on basic cable while her mother, my aunt, was like in the kitchen making something, has no idea what we're doing, and we're just kind of sneaking around watching these movies. And that was the closest that I would get to, you know, family time and doing creepy stuff together, but that's it. It's not a family thing. I'm very much the odd one out.
You said when you meet people and you become friends and then they get to know you and then they're like, so they're shocked that you write these things? Why are they shocked? Why do you think they're shocked?
They're shocked because it seems like you should have a certain look or carry yourself in a certain way, and I don't. I'm very much just, at this point, I'm very much a mom. 90% of the people that I know are also moms, and I actually homeschool my kiddo, and these are like homeschool moms. And so we've got this big group, and it's just the weirdest thing to them that like that's what I do. And it's not just like that's what I do as this weird little side hobby. It's like I've actually created a career of it. And I don't know. I guess it's just weird for people to meet authors in general. It's kind of, it
Yeah.
seems like people think that we're like these magical, mystical creatures that just, you know, we exist on a different plane, and we really don't. We're just normal people. And one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of doing interviews, or especially like what we're doing now, is I really don't talk about myself a lot. I don't talk about myself or what I do, or when people ask me a bunch of questions about my books, I just kind of, you know, it's not really natural for me to do that. And so that's why a lot of people just don't know a lot. It's just, I kind of keep it on the down low. And again, you know, sometimes people think that's really cool, and then sometimes people look at you like you're like,
Those are jerks. Those people are jerks. When they do that, they're jerks. Do they read your books eventually?
I think some people do. I'm not sure. I mean, again, I'm not going to go up to somebody and ask them, did you read it? What do you think about me now?
Right, right. What do you think you would be doing if you weren't writing and you didn't have a career as a writer?
I would probably be something like a pastry chef or something. I actually I have an enormous sweet tooth. I would eat sugar all day long if I could. I actually have a pretty weird story about that, where when I was trying to get started in publishing and I was getting all of these rejections, when I get stuff like that, I don't get like despondent and sad. I just get kind of aggravated and frustrated and almost just like angry about stuff. And so I got kind of frustrated, and I said to myself, well, forget it. Then I'm going to do something else that I like. And I signed up for some classes to get a culinary arts degree.
Mm.
I had all the books and everything. And I don't know to this day how this happened. It was just the weirdest thing where, like, a week before everything was supposed to kick off, I was disenrolled from all of my classes. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why. That was my reaction. I was like, what? Because I already had spent the books on the money on the books, and I had all of this prepped. I was ready to go. No, you're not able to go. We don't know who you are. And so then I got mad at that, and I said to myself, well, fine, then I'll just keep writing, I guess. And that's lucky, because not
very much.
long after that, I wrote Seed. And that's what kicked it all off. So, but yeah, very weird sort of, I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's just this weird twist of fate that they kicked me out of culinary school before I could even get in. I
mean, it's almost like you don't have a choice to live the life you're living. Like,
right.
You're an anomaly in your own family, and then you try these other things, and the universe is like,
It's just like, no,
you're doing this. What made you think, what gave you the belief that you're like, no, I can get published? Did somebody say
there was no, I didn't have that. When I was getting all these rejections, I was shopping around a book that I shouldn't have ever written in the first place, because it wasn't horror, it wasn't thriller, it was just kind of like this generic, boring sort of thing. And I was shopping it around because I figured that was probably the most marketable thing that I could have done at the time. And I was not being very true to myself when I was doing that. And again, another twist of fate was that book, despite it not being really me, it made it high up on the ranks in at a certain, I don't even remember the name of the agency, but it was a really big agency in New York City. And they had me on the line for months and months, where they were like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is it. And then at the last moment, they said, you know what, never mind.
Oh.
And I was both devastated and absolutely infuriated by this, because they had me on the line for like 6 months. I knew it was going to happen, but it was the wrong book. So after that, I started writing Seed, and I was really, at that point, I'd had it. And I didn't know what I was going to do with Seed. I was just writing it for myself. And toward the end of the first draft, my husband says, hey, have you heard of this thing called KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing? And at that point, that was absolutely brand new. And I said, no, I've never heard of that. What is it? And he says, well, you can publish your own book on Amazon. And I said, well, I guess that's what I'm doing, because I'm fed up with these people just telling me that I'm not good enough. And so here we go. And as soon as I knew that I wasn't going to have any kind of a gatekeeper or anything like that, I kind of put it all out in that third act in Seed, where I was like, let's just do whatever I want to do. And if people like it, that's great. And if people don't, too bad. I kind of laid it out, and I published it on KDP. And a few months later, lo and behold, I get an email from Amazon saying, so we really want to buy this book and republish it under our imprint. And oh, by the way, we also want you to write 4 more. And so that was how I started. Basically, my career started with just kind of two middle fingers up. And I was like, well, forget it, like I'm just going to do it myself. And at that point, when I published it, I had decided, if this makes me money, that's great. But if it doesn't, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to write whatever I want to write. And I've got this platform now that's, it's available to me, and I'm not going to listen to what other people have to say about it. And I feel like I've kind of stuck to that quite a bit, where I'm not a very good team player. And sometimes I feel like when I do work with publishers, they're a little bit aggravated with me because I'm not really interested in doing anything that isn't true to me at this point, which is just, a complete 180 from where I had started. So yeah, again, another twist of fate where it's just, that's how it came to be. And it was them coming to me, knocking on my door when finally I was like, you guys are out. I'm in, you're out. And it was
awesome.
And when they came to me, actually, and this is like a theme through this entire interview, is I was so angry when they came to me. I was just so annoyed. Like, how dare you come to me at this point? Like, yeah. I was done, and how dare you? But I was actually, I genuinely thought about just telling them to take a hike.
Amazon?
I'm sorry?
Amazon?
Yeah,
wow.
I genuinely considered telling them, no, just forget it. I'm over it. I'm over the whole like song and dance of the publishing industry. But then I thought better of it, and I thought, well, if you do want to make a career of this, you can't do it alone, because this is like such a, it's a rough industry. And I was thankfully smart enough to recognize that, because would I be talking to you today if I had just gone it alone? Probably not. But maybe. But maybe, because fate.
Yeah. It's funny when you said that, it struck a reminder. I loved in If You See Her, and I'm not gonna spoil anything because you don't know when this is gonna happen, viewer, if you've never read it. But oh my God, I'm totally blanking on the main character's name.
Oh, don't ask me. Don't ask me.
I totally
How
blanked.
embarrassing is that? How embarrassing is that? No, that's.
I could tell you Casey, Reed, Llewellyn, Carrie Mae, Father Donner.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. Well, whatever. At one point in the book, I love, because that whole FU attitude kind of comes in near the end. And I think anybody who's ever been in a relationship where there's this tug of war between like, we're not ready to talk to you right now, and the other person's like begging to talk. Once that person doesn't give a shit, then the other person's like, wait, what's going on? And then they pursue. It's funny how that works. And that sort of feels like a little echo of your attitude. And I think not giving a fuck is a superpower. I mean, like, that is a position of strength that I think probably really totally helped with, although these publishers, they're crazy. Did Amazon have any creative control over any editing control over what you wrote?
Whether or not they did, I can't really tell you yes or no, but what they didn't use that power with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
There was with the Bird Eater that I had a lot of trouble figuring out where that story was supposed to go. And so when I submitted my workable manuscript to them, my editor was like, well, we need to work on this a bit. There's something that's not working here. And I actually told him, I know that there's something that's not working here, but I need your help. And what's funny is, as soon as I told him that, I figured it out. Of course I did. Like, I was like, oh, never mind, I got it. But yeah, they never exerted that power over me. And at this point, I wouldn't really allow a publisher to do that. Again, it's one of those, it's like that you, where it's like,
Yep.
well, you're lucky that you've got me now. And ironically, I say that, but I'm probably the last person that will say, oh, well, I'm just like the super awesome writer and like my
Right.
book is super great and whatever. Like, I don't talk about them. And I don't think that my stuff is really any better than anybody else's. I think there's a lot of authors out there who absolutely don't get the recognition that they should. And there's a lot of authors that get more recognition than they ever deserve.
Amen. Amen to both. Yes.
But when it comes to a little bit of validation, having Paul Suntup come up to me and be like, hey, let's work together. That was a big deal. I didn't,
awesome.
I had no idea what Suntup was when he approached me. And so when I looked it up, I was kind of blown away. Like, this must be a mistake, right? He has me confused with somebody else. He must have read a different book and he thinks he's talking to a completely different person. And I thought that with Brother, that was going to be it. And then we did Seed, and then we did If You See Her, and now we're doing Good and Joyful Things. And so like, he keeps validating me, like, no, you really do deserve to be here, which is really helpful in the fact that I suffer from imposter syndrome like crazy. I have that self-doubt like always. It's like always on my shoulder. It's like that evil thing on my shoulder where I'm just like, I know it's good, but is it good enough? It's always that.
You know what's amazing about your mindset that I'm just getting in this little 25 minutes we've been talking? It's like, you will allow self-doubt. You will agree with self-doubt. You will allow it to run through you and put up whatever speed blocks, but you won't accept a minute, a second of doubt from other people on the outside.
Mhm.
And I think that armor allows you to, allows you to just leapfrog the whole publishing author cycle of pain, rejection, despair, where you started out with hope, and then you immediately went to F you, and then you achieved what could be called in some financial circles, they call it escape velocity, where you have enough of your own personal brand equity where you can now say F you because you have a catalog of success. It's and I guarantee other authors, if they're watching this, their jaws just like on the floor with the whole thing, because your validation from Suntup, in my opinion, is sort of just a cherry on top. Like, you didn't need that. It did put you on a lot of people's radars. I mean,
Right.
Nocturnal Reader's Box put you on my radar with Brother. They did it in one of their boxes. So when people were talking about that, I'm like, oh, I want to read that. But when Suntup did it, I'm like, I have to read it. I mean, Suntup picked it. Like, now
Right.
it went way up to the top. And I'm sure, did you notice a difference in how maybe publishers or Amazon treated you after the Suntup thing, or your sales?
As far as sales go, I never look at my numbers. When I used to look at my numbers, they weren't great. And now I just don't look at my numbers because it gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
So I give all that stuff to my husband, and I don't know that he even looks at the numbers. He handles all the like financials and stuff, because in that sense, I am very much the creative of the pair, and he is more of the, he can handle the money. And I'm not saying that I can't handle money, but it does give me a level of anxiety where it's this, like, now I'm writing because I have to make money. Like, because it has to reflect in my bank account. And I just can't function very well when that's at the back of my mind. And when I was doing Seed and it was just the KDP thing and I hadn't signed with Amazon yet, I had to do a lot. I mean, I had to do all my own marketing, as you can, which was nothing except like running around. I think at that point it was Twitter, right? Saying, hey, everybody read my book. And it was like this like second full-time job for me. It was really stressful. And then I actually used to, at that point in my fledgling career, I made the mistake of like reading reviews and stuff, which was not wise. but almost irresistible when you're at the beginning of that career where you want to find either somebody validating you, and then you find somebody, pissing all over your work, and
Right.
it's just terrible. So I don't know if Suntup, the Suntup releases increased my sales. I'm sure, like you said, that it increased my audience, which is the most important thing to me. It's hard to say because a lot of the times a new reader will come to me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I just discovered you and I just bought every single one of your books." And I'm like, "Well, thank you. I hope I don't, it's kind of a
Right.
lot to live up to, but thanks." So I don't know how it reflects in sales, because maybe one person is crazy and they bought like 10,000 copies. I don't know.
But I would shift gears a little bit. One thing I did notice about your writing and about the books I've read. So I've read Palmetto, Dark Across the Bay, Brother Seed, If You See Her. I got to read Within These Walls. I didn't read that one yet, but
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorites, but
I think that's why I have it. I think you did mention that somewhere before, and I'm like, all right, well, if this is, well, well, anyway, I think the one thing that really I've noticed as a theme in your works is like your family is supposed to be the safest place in the world for you to be. And I know there are very real horrors in the world that, have nothing to do with the supernatural, that come from family, but that's the place where you can get the hurt the most.
yeah.
And what you've done in a lot of these, and it takes me right back to when I was a new parent, and you have the kids, and you have this mix of, I need to make sure they make it to adulthood without losing my mind and navigate this world that I can't even predict yet. And I think you play that up. So is that intentional? Or are you just writing what you feel?
Yeah, so I didn't recognize what my theme was, my theme, my reoccurring theme in every single book, until I'd written like maybe 4 or 5 of them, and then I realized I'm writing about the same thing over and over again, just in different situations, and it's always family and like the destruction of it, or like the danger of it, of like trusting it too much, or the terror of losing it and such. And full disclosure, I don't have a good relationship with my parents. And we've had some seriously traumatic events happen within my family that happened before I stepped into this career. And I feel like writing is honestly a sense of therapy.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the reason why a lot of people will come to me and say, "I can't stop reading your stuff and I don't know why." And my thought is, well, I kind of do know why. And it's because it's resonating with you, where it's like this, it's just this like universal sort of fear and sadness and maybe loneliness and just grief and all this stuff that maybe some authors are afraid to tap into, or they're focusing more on plot, and so that kind of falls by the wayside. And for me, it's more about of course there's always going to be the plot, there's always going to be that like concept of what I'm trying to write, but when it comes to the characters, they tend to all sort of be pretty similar in their fears and desires and that sort of thing. And that's definitely, that comes from me. And it's not like I'm sitting here trying to like, oh, I have to put this in because this is part of the theme or whatever. It's just absolutely the subconscious thing that comes out. And I feel like a lot of the time I kind of split how do I say this? I like split the issues, I guess, among characters. So like one character will really encompass like grief, and another character will encompass something else. And I don't know why I do that. I don't know. It's just kind of, I guess it's a little bit therapeutic to have like your grief talk to your sadness in a book. and like try to
Yeah.
battle, you know. That's the best way that I can describe it. But yeah, I think that that's why a lot of my stuff resonates with people. And a lot of people say, well, your stuff is so sad. It's like the saddest horror book I've ever read in my life. I have to read it like 800 more times. And yeah, the stuff is sad. It's not hopeful. I mean, if you know, you know. I do not do the happy ending. I just don't. And I feel like that's because that's just the person, that's the kind of person I am. I feel like happy ending isn't really honest, you know?
Yep.
So like with Seed, one of the things with Seed that was really a driver for me to even write that book was that every movie and every book that I would read about some kind of demonic possession or something, like the priest always wins, or like they figure it out and everybody's cool. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that would never happen. That if you were like possessed by a genuine demon that could do whatever, why would he let you win? You know, like, and so I wanted to explore that, in that let's explore this completely bizarre and crazy concept as realistically as we can.
Yeah.
You know, like, what would really happen if we were really doing this? Like, if this was really happening.
If you're toys for a demonic entity, and I think you played that up a lot in If You See Her, where it's a game. It's a game, and it's
Sure.
you know it, but choosing to say this is a game brings a level of terror, because you're right, in all these other possession things, humans, it's a human centric version of the story, and we think we are just indomitable, like we
Right.
are the top of the food chain, nobody can test us, even demons and angels are no match for what we could figure out. And by saying that it's a game for Georgiana, see, I remember every other character's name. To say it's a game for this demon is like, it diminishes people into like, yeah, you didn't think of all the angles, you're nothing, you're toys.
Right.
And I think that is the heart of what really horrifies me, and a lot of things that when I walk away a little shaken, is this idea of being dehumanized. You can steal someone's life, but you steal their humanity, and it goes to a darker place for me. And I think that's what I got in Brother.
Yeah.
That was dark.
It was dark.
Yeah, that was pretty dark. What do you think about the art in these books? I gotta know,
Oh my
because
gosh,
I think
art.
Dolce.
Well, so I love the art, and part of the reason why I love the art is that I get to pick. Like, they send me a list.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's one of the funnest things, is they send me a list of, I think, like 4 or 5 artists that they've got lined up. And then they tell me, well, rank which ones you like from best to, I don't want to say least, because they're all amazing.
right.
But which one speaks to you the most, and then the second and the third. And I think I've gotten all of my top picks.
They're so good.
If You See Her really blew me out
Babs.
of, yeah, it blew my mind, because the pictures are absolutely like, they are just like a profound match of what I would have in my head if I said to somebody, draw that. So yeah, and I think that's Babs Webb who knows. She's brilliant. So
Well,
yeah,
I think that's cool too, because you're not picking finished art. You're picking an artist with the style. And then
right.
when that artist creates these pieces, for them to match so well with like your visual tone that you've held in your brain as the creator of the work, that's cool.
Yeah.
And Dolce too, for
yes, I love her.
And Samuel. I don't want to, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like the tone.
They're all great.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I have not seen anything for Good and Joyful Things.
I haven't either.
What's it feel like when he sends you your contributor copies?
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Again, it's like really validating and amazing. And I think that Paul is the Willy Wonka of the publishing industry.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
He will send you something completely incredible, and when you see it, it's so just fantastic that you don't really know how to react to it. I
Yeah.
feel like I have actually had a more definable emotion just opening a box of paperbacks than I have when Paul sends me something, because it's just like so much. Like, it's the art, it's the paper, it's the way that they've bound the thing, and it's kind of like you don't know what to do with it, because it's like such a fantastic thing. I often think about, like, if I have something to leave to my kid as far as my career goes, these books are just going to be like so precious,
Wow.
because they're just so incredible. And it's something that it just feels like, well, these books aren't just going to be, and they're never going to end up being donated to a Goodwill. They're never going to be
Right.
like in a box saying free pick up on the side of the road or something. These are like genuine, beautifully bound, incredible pieces of art.
Yeah.
And they just happen to have my words in them. And so that's actually something that I'm really excited for my kiddo to have when he's older, and I'm long gone from this earth, that he can like hold on to that. And I wouldn't have that without Paul reaching out and making that happen for me. So that's a really big deal for me, in like on an emotional level as well.
And he just reached out of the blue.
Out of the blue. I had no idea who he was.
Wow.
No idea.
Willy Wonka hands
And
you.
yeah, and when he did, I had to look him up, and I swear I was like, this is a mistake. Like, he sent the wrong person an email, because like, why? And I thought I didn't think it would happen. When he reached out, he said something like, well, let's do Brother. I just read it and it's incredible and I love it and I want to make it into a book. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, fine. I didn't think it would ever happen, because sometimes this stuff like falls through. With all the books that I have, we've done a lot of movie rights, and I don't see an Ania Ahlborn movie out there yet. It always falls through, or something happens, and it's just, so I've got this, at this point, I've got that armor built up again. Like, I've always got this armor where it's like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. Like, it's fine. It's never going to happen. Like, and then I'm not disappointed.
Yeah.
And then when it does happen, it's just, incredible and amazing.
That would be a trip. I could imagine for an author to have a movie optioned, and then like you got your characters are now living people. And I could see the novelty of it, but I never mix media. Like, if the book is the book, like, and I always treat like a movie as a separate thing. Like, I'll be like, okay, well, that's somebody's interpretation, and it takes all these actors to try to interpret the characters, and that's not what I saw, but good for you. But it is a financial boon for an author to get something like that. And so that's the only reason I wish they'll do an Ania Ahlborn movie.
Well, the one that's gone the furthest, and we've got our fingers crossed, is for Brother. So we'll see.
I don't know how they could make that. I mean, it would have to be like Blumhouse, or it would have to be somebody that does not mind being gritty. Or, I mean, not gritty, that sounds stupid, but someone that doesn't mind getting into it. Like,
they're not afraid of,
don't pull punches with that movie. You can't, because it wouldn't work otherwise. And I gotta say,
I'm not going to tell you the last time that they reached out to me, and sometimes they'll tell me like who they have lined up for casting. I'm not going to tell you, because I don't know if I'm allowed to even tell you that.
Oh, sure.
But the person they have lined up, or the last time they let me know about it, the last time they had someone lined up for Michael is, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited about that person.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
very gritty, very much backwoods kind of, like he can really pull that off. Up and coming and very like just a great actor. So I think that he can pull it off because he really has this like emotional range to him.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting. But at the same time, the idea of seeing Brother as a movie just like freaks me out.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to even watch it?
I can
Like
imagine.
it's gonna be so weird. And if there was like a premiere and I had to be there, I feel like I'd have to go like in all like in a disguise or something, just so that I could have like actual reactions instead of just like sitting there like a log and just just looking around like what does everybody think? Because I don't know. And it's just scary because like what if you hate it?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, what if you hate it, but then you have to talk to the people who created it or who were in it, and they're like, did you like it? And you have to
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, because like it's their work.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's you can't tell somebody that they did a bad job when they actually did a good job, and it's just you that doesn't like it.
Did you see with Paul Tremblay when M. Night Shyamalan did Knock at the Cabin? Uh,
Hmm.
based on Cabin at the End of the World. Now, I don't know if you've read any Paul
I've
Tremblay.
read it and I've seen the movie.
So then the big glaring difference. And I was a huge fan of the book with the ambiguous ending. And then the movie took a position. And I will say, I did not hate it, but I didn't create it. And Paul Tremblay was walking around with a shirt shortly after that movie was out and about where it says the book was better. That's all he did. He wore this shirt and just had those words on it, a shirt I would agree with all the time. And I think, yeah, that is a pitfall, that if you don't like it and it does feel like a betrayal, I think the best thing you could do is just let go and say now it's their creation.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of my position anyway. Once the book is done and
Yeah.
it's out, it's not mine anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and if they want to, if somebody wants to make a movie of it, that is going to be their interpretation of it, and they can spin it how they want to spin it. And I am not allowed to like I can definitely protest, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, they're creating something new from this material.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't appreciate it as an artist for somebody else to tell me, well, you just can't do it that way. Like, what do you
Right.
mean? Like I can do whatever I want, right? Like that's the whole idea, is that I can make it my own. Um, yeah, it's just tough to like, if it came out of your brain and then like letting somebody else spin it. I'm hopeful. When I saw the potential casting, it made me hopeful. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
If it even happens.
I in some regards, like when I was reading the book, I just thought, oh, this would be the scenes were at the record shop would be great because the whole sort of retro vibe, the whole time it takes place, it would take you'd want to recreate that era, that sort of vibe, and also you'd have to have a hell of a soundtrack. The Cure,
Yeah.
you'd have to have The Forest.
Yeah, that was like my love letter to the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it. Do you have anything you want to say about good and joyful things? Like, is there anything you'd like to, because obviously this is not a book that's been previously published.
Right.
Everybody's coming to the Suntup party at the Ania Ahlborn Suntup party at the same time. And we have no idea, none of us, because Paul doesn't do arcs anymore. What's in store for us?
Well, so that the theme is going to be family and the destruction of. I can't get away from that.
You don't have to. You shouldn't have to.
I can give you like a synopsis, but I can't tell you a lot because it's like a ball of yarn where
Yeah.
you give too much and then it's just. So this book It focuses on a pretty young family. There's Simone, she's the mom, and Elliot is the dad, and they're relatively young for, being parents and whatnot. And then there's two little girls. There's a little girl named Aster, she's 4, and then there's a newborn named Lizzie, and she's just like, I think a couple of months, if that. Simone is in the throes of postpartum depression, and she also tops that off with suspecting Elliot of having an affair. And she is just absolutely feeling like she is completely alone in the world. And it's sort of my ode to how it feels to be a new mom, because it's very, very isolating. Now, the irony of that is that I wrote this before I was a mom. And
Wow.
I recently read it back, because this book I wrote this book about 7 years ago, believe it or not.
Huh.
And we shopped it around for a while, and everybody said, this is just, nobody's going to want to read this book. All these bad things are happening to this family. Like, nobody's going to want it. And I'm like, well, what about true crime then? Because this is like my love letter to true crime. Like, I love true crime to a fault. And I wanted to have a book that was a little bit like that, where something terrible is going to happen and somebody is going to do the terrible thing, but you don't know how, and you don't know when, and you don't know who's going to do it. And this book is really about trust, and why do you, by default, trust the person that you live with? How can you you sleep next to this person and you are completely unconscious, right? And like, how do you know they're not going to wake up and just like do this, like, terrible things to you?
Yeah.
You don't. And so that's what Good and Joyful Things is about. It's a slow burn, kind of like Brother at the beginning. So if anybody's like, well,
I don't know
what's going
if
to happen?
I would never call Brother a slow burn, because
I've heard that over and over and over again. I've heard from so many people that Brother just like took forever to get started. I don't feel that way, but
I mean, I was hooked immediately and just like torn to shreds by the end. So I just find that funny.
Yeah. Well, so this one, Suntup actually gave me, it's not a write-up, but it's a description of what they're calling it. And I'm just going to give it to you, because obviously it's probably already on the site at this point. But they said it's a horrifying manifesto of marriage manipulation and the unpredictability of human relationships.
Ooh.
So it's definitely like, who are you going to trust, and why do you trust them, and do you really know who you're living with? What are their secrets? It's an angle of, here is your family, here are the people that you're supposed to trust the most, but can you?
Yeah. Do you really know what's inside?
And if you think you can, why do you think you can? What if they're lying to you? Like, there's always this like angle of like, what if, but what if? And it just doesn't give you an answer until the end, obviously. So I'm gonna tell you that, but
that vibe, just that little synopsis, reminds me of Rosemary's Baby, of course, where the husband is totally gaslighting his wife,
and he's totally behind everything. It's a little bit Gone Girl. It's a little bit I'm gonna age myself when I give you these references: Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and also Single White Female, and all of those like really weird, what are those 90s, like early 90s movies that they were like exploring that kind of true crime thing before true crime was a big booming industry.
That's the thing. We have so many examples, and it's unfortunately it's almost always husbands that are doing horrible things. That's where I think horror also really works, is if you can find, if you're like, wow, this doesn't seem crazy. Like when you talked about the isolation of new parenthood, to write that before you experience it. Because I was nodding, I'm like, yeah, anybody who's had a kid and seen those early first few months are just, it's a bomb that goes off, and your world is torched. But to write that before it happens is interesting. I mean, that you put yourself in that place. Did you think it held up when you read it now after you've had?
I was surprised how well it held up.
Wow.
It was actually a little bit creepy. Like I was asking myself, like, how would I have known that it felt like that? It's, for me at least, a pretty accurate representation. But again, it might just be for me because it's me, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like I did have some beta readers on Good and Joyful Things that they were mothers, and they said, oh yeah, this is absolutely like a very accurate representation of what it feels like to be alone in it. But that's not what the entire book is about. Obviously, it also tells the story from the perspective of the husband, and it jumps from time to time, like the point of view shifts from the now to the past, and it's kind of all over the place in the way that I like to do, all over the place, where I keep you guessing and I shift perspectives and all kinds of stuff. It's fun. I'm excited for people to read it because it's both very similar to stuff that you have read, but also very, very new, very different.
And I think it's amazing. It's the first edition Suntup's ever done.
Yes.
That
yes,
is really
and that is also pretty cool. I had to wait quite a bit longer to put this book out. I was ready to just put it out on my own at this point. And Paul said, do you have anything that I can read? And I said, I guess. Yeah, sure. And so I showed it to him thinking he might not like it because it really is a little bit more like female focused. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point.
I mean, I can understand that because, like, when I was reading Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, when I first started reading that book, and I loved her book, They Say a Girl Died Here Once, and then I jumped into Behind Her Eyes. The first half of that book, I'm like, she really wasn't writing it for me. It's like this is a book that you wouldn't traditionally think would be have a strong male audience, but it was a brilliant book.
Right.
You know, and the same thing with You by Carolyn Kepnes. I don't know how to say her last name.
Right.
It's really not a book. It feels more like you know, for a 20 to 30 something year old woman, and not necessarily me. But I loved it. I mean, so there are those books, and I think what people need to understand is read books maybe that were not intended for you, and you will sort of grow. You'll see a new experience. I think that's the thing I take from it, and I really like that. And I think we're all part of a family. It's a pretty relatable experience to sit and look at the other person, and then inevitably, if you're sitting there going, well, what if, then you start to think, what if I'm the problem? That's what I would do. And I'd be like,
Right.
am I the danger? Oh man, then you can't trust anything if you can't trust yourself. Sure. I thank you for taking the time to chat with me about this. It's incredible. Your story, your story, and the stories you're right are equally incredible. And I'm so excited to see this book right along with you, and then read it, of course.
Well, I'm excited to hopefully hear that people enjoy it. Yeah, it's always a little nerve-wracking at first when you know it hits, and you're just like, well, is it going to be, you know, are people going to like it? But again, validation. Paul likes it, so you have to like it, right? Like,
yeah, he vets all the books. If, like I said, when I wanted to read Brother for the Buzz, and Buzz only gets so far with me. I usually resist Buzz, but when he tapped it as like, this is the book I'm doing, Okay, now that's like the best word of mouth for me, like, because I've never been disappointed by a Suntup book, both in the production but also in the story. So I've never read one that I'm like, oh, it's a good thing it's beautiful. I've never had
Right.
it. I've
Right.
always been like, wow, this is an experience. And so far 3 of those, and I'm gonna look in this book, book Georgiana's Coffin, find that guy's name. It's in there somewhere. I read it last night.
I know and that's embarrassing for me as well because
No, it's not.
I do not, I don't keep track. And as soon as I start working on something else, they go out the window. I actually at one point made a list of all the names that I used because I was like, I don't want to name another character the exact same thing that I
Yeah,
named somebody else in the book. It's hard to keep track of. And once those books are out of my brain, you can ask me details about them and I'll tell you the details. But as far as like names or, I've had people like quote my stuff to me and I'm like, well, who wrote that? What's that from? And they're just like, well, what do
yeah,
you and it's
yeah.
like, I'm not a walking encyclopedia
No,
of Ania Ahlborn books.
no. I mean, I've never published a book, but I work in marketing and I've written a lot of stuff to support universities and get people to enroll, blah, blah, blah. That was my gig. And so there are times where I'll have old documents even and I open them up. I'm like, oh, this stuff's pretty good. Who wrote this? Like
And it's you.
yeah, yeah,
There is a saying that something like if you need a fresh pair of eyes on if an author needs a fresh pair of eyes on their work, just wait a minute and reread your stuff
yeah,
because you've never read it before, like you've never
right.
seen this before in your life. And that's so absolutely me,
Mm.
where I can read something even a few weeks later and I'm like, I don't remember this scene. I don't remember writing this. This is actually okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that way, and it makes you feel a little bit disconnected from your own work, and you're like, well, do I disassociate when I write? Like, what's going on,
It, yeah, like I said, your story is amazing and your career is awesome and your path, it's such a crazy one. It is just wild. But I thank you, and you've given me an hour and 10 minutes of your life. And also hours and hours and days of enjoyment. So I think I've taken more than my share.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.